Robert Sterling stood frozen in his glass-walled conference room, sweat beading on his forehead as he watched his Japanese interpreter pack her briefcase with sharp, angry movements. The woman's face was red with fury, and she was speaking so fast in Japanese that even he could catch the anger in her voice. But when she turned to him and spoke in English, her words hit him like a punch to the gut. "I quit, Mr. Sterling. I will not work for someone who treats people like dirt. Find someone else to clean up your mess." The door slammed behind her, and Robert felt his chest tighten. In exactly 2 hours, the most important business meeting of his life would begin in this very room. Sitting across from him would be 3 executives from Tokyo's largest tech company, ready to sign a deal worth $50 million. The problem was simple and devastating. None of them spoke a word of English. Robert's hands shook as he reached for his phone. His assistant, Patricia, answered on the first ring. "Patricia, I need you to find me a Japanese translator. Right now. I don't care what it costs." "Sir, what happened to Mrs. Tanaka?" "She quit. Just find someone. Anyone. Call every agency in the city." Robert hung up and sank into his leather chair. The irony wasn't lost on him. He was worth over $200 million, but right now he felt completely powerless. His tech company had spent 3 years developing a new software platform, and this Japanese partnership was supposed to be their big break into the Asian market. Without it, his company would struggle to survive. The conference room felt smaller now, like the glass walls were closing in on him. He could see his reflection in the window, a 35-year-old man who had built his empire through hard work and determination, now reduced to panic by something as simple as a language barrier. His phone rang again. Patricia's voice was tight with stress. "Sir, I've called 12 agencies. Everyone who speaks Japanese is already booked for the day. There's a convention in town and all the translators are working. Keep trying. Call agencies in other cities. Offer double their usual rate." "I already did, sir. The closest available translator is in Chicago, and they can't get here until tomorrow." Robert felt his world crashing down around him. The Japanese executives were flying back to Tokyo tonight. This was his only chance, and he was about to lose everything because of pride and poor treatment of the one person who could have helped him. He thought about Mrs. Tanaka's angry words. She had been right. He had treated her poorly, always rushing her, never saying thank you, acting like she was just another piece of office equipment. Now his attitude had cost him everything. The minutes ticked by like hours. Robert tried to think of alternatives, but his mind kept going blank. He could try to postpone the meeting, but the Japanese executives had made it clear that today was their only available day. He could try to communicate through gestures and basic phrases, but business deals required precise language and cultural understanding. His phone buzzed with a text from his business partner. "How's the prep going for the big meeting?" Robert couldn't even bring himself to respond. How could he explain that his company's future was slipping away because he couldn't find someone to translate for him? His employees were counting on this deal. Without it, he would have to lay off half his staff. The conference room door opened and Patricia walked in with a stack of papers. Her face was grim. "Sir, I've called every agency within a 3-hour drive. I've posted emergency requests on freelancer websites. I've even called the local universities to see if any professors are available." She paused, her voice dropping. "There's nobody, Mr. Sterling. Everyone who speaks Japanese is already committed today." Robert felt a sharp pain in his chest. He had never experienced a panic attack before, but he was pretty sure this was what one felt like. His breathing became shallow and the room started to spin slightly. "What about online translation services?" he asked desperately. "For a $50 million deal? Sir, you need someone who understands business terminology and cultural nuances. This isn't something Google Translate can handle." Patricia was right and Robert knew it. Japanese business culture was complex, full of subtle meanings and unspoken rules. One wrong phrase could kill the entire deal. He looked at his watch. 1 hour and 20 minutes until the meeting. The Japanese executives were probably already at their hotel, preparing their presentation. They had no idea that the man they were about to meet with couldn't understand a word they would say. The panic was getting worse now. Robert's shirt was soaked with sweat, and he could feel his heart racing. He had built his company from nothing, working 18-hour days, sacrificing relationships and personal time. Everything he had worked for was about to disappear because of something so simple yet so impossible to fix. His phone rang again. For a moment, hope flared in his chest. Maybe Patricia had found someone. But it was just his lawyer calling to confirm the contract details. "Everything set for this afternoon?" the lawyer asked cheerfully. "Actually, we might need to postpone," Robert said, his voice barely above a whisper. Postpone? Robert, you can't postpone this. The Japanese company has been planning this for months. If you try to change the schedule now, they'll think you're not serious about the partnership. Robert knew his lawyer was right. In Japanese business culture, reliability and punctuality were everything. Asking to reschedule would be seen as disrespectful and unprofessional. The deal would be dead before it even started. He hung up and put his head in his hands. 35 years old, and his career was about to end because he couldn't communicate with 3 people. The thought made him feel sick. Patricia knocked on the door again. Sir, the Japanese executives just called. They're leaving their hotel now and will be here in 45 minutes. Robert looked up at her, and she could see the desperation in his eyes. Patricia, I need you to be honest with me. Is there any chance at all that we can find someone in the next 45 minutes? She shook her head slowly. I'm sorry, sir. I've exhausted every option I can think of. Robert stood up and walked to the window. 40 floors below, the city bustled with life. Somewhere out there had to be someone who could help him. But how could he find them in less than an hour? The conference room suddenly felt like a prison. The same glass walls that had once made him feel powerful and successful now felt like they were trapping him in his failure. His reflection stared back at him, a man who had everything and was about to lose it all because he had forgotten the most basic rule of business. Treat people with respect. Mrs. Tanaka's angry face flashed through his mind again. If he had just been kinder to her, if he had just shown some basic human decency, she would still be here. Instead, his arrogance had created this impossible situation. Robert closed his eyes and tried to think. There had to be a solution. There had to be someone, somewhere who could help him. But as the minutes ticked away and his phone remained silent, the reality of his situation became clearer and clearer. In 35 minutes, 3 Japanese executives would walk into this room expecting to conduct business. And he would have to sit there, completely helpless, watching his dreams disappear behind a wall of words he couldn't understand. Robert's hands trembled as he dialed his 3rd emergency contact. The phone rang 4 times before a groggy voice answered. Hello. Professor Williams from the local university sounded like he had been sleeping. Professor Williams, this is Robert Sterling from Sterling Technologies. I know we've never met, but I'm in a desperate situation. I need someone who speaks Japanese, and I need them in the next 30 minutes. There was a pause. Mr. Sterling, I teach German literature. I think you have the wrong department. Can you connect me to someone in the Japanese department? Please, this is an emergency. The Japanese department is closed for the summer. Most of our faculty are in Japan doing research. Robert felt his heart sink even further. What about students? Anyone who might be available? I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling. I really can't help you. The line went dead. Robert threw his phone down on the conference table and began pacing. The room felt smaller with each step and his breathing was getting more shallow. Patricia burst through the door, her arms full of printouts. Sir, I've been calling every hotel in the city, thinking maybe there's a Japanese tourist who speaks English and might be willing to help. And? Most hotels won't give out guest information. The few that did said their Japanese guests either don't speak English or have already checked out. Robert looked at his watch. 28 minutes. He could feel sweat dripping down his back and his shirt was starting to stick to his skin. The panic was getting worse, not better. What about the Japanese consulate? He asked suddenly. Patricia shook her head. I called them. They said they don't provide translation services for private businesses. Did you offer them money? Sir, I offered them $10,000. They said it wouldn't be appropriate. Robert felt like he was drowning. Every option led to a dead end. He had built his entire career on solving problems, on finding solutions where others saw only obstacles. But this problem seemed unsolvable. His phone buzzed with a text from his head of development. Heard about the meeting today. Can't wait to hear how it goes. This partnership is going to change everything for us. Robert's chest tightened. His entire team was counting on him. 23 employees who had worked late nights and weekends to make this deal possible. If he failed today, half of them would lose their jobs within a month. Patricia, what about language schools? Are there any in the area? I called 6 of them. 2 are closed for the summer, and the others said their Japanese instructors are all teaching classes right now. Could we pay one of them to leave their class? I asked. They said it wouldn't be professional to abandon their students. Robert wanted to scream. Professional. Everyone was being professional except him. He had been so unprofessional with Mrs. Tanaka that he had driven away the one person who could save him. The conference room door opened and his business partner Jake walked in. Jake took one look at Robert's face and knew something was wrong. Robert, what's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost. Mrs. Tanaka quit. I don't have a translator for the meeting. Jake's face went pale. What do you mean she quit? She said I treated her poorly. She's right, I did. And now I can't find anyone else who speaks Japanese. Jake sat down heavily in one of the conference chairs. How is that possible? This is a major city. There have to be dozens of Japanese speakers. They're all busy. There's some kind of convention in town, and every translator is already working. Jake was quiet for a moment, processing the information. Okay, let's think about this logically. What about apps? Translation apps. For a $50 million deal? Jake, these people need to understand complex technical terms and cultural nuances. A phone app isn't going to cut it. What about hiring someone from another city to fly in? I tried. The closest available translator is in Chicago, and they can't get here until tomorrow night. Jake stood up and began pacing alongside Robert. There has to be something we're missing. Some option we haven't considered. Robert looked at his watch again. 22 minutes. His chest was getting tighter and he was starting to feel dizzy. The room seemed to be tilting slightly. Jake, I think I'm having a panic attack. Jake immediately went to the mini fridge in the corner and grabbed a bottle of water. Here, drink this. Slowly. Robert took small sips, but it didn't help much. The reality of his situation was crushing him. In 22 minutes, he would have to sit across from 3 Japanese executives and somehow explain that he couldn't understand them. What if we just tell them the truth? Jake suggested. Explain what happened and ask if they can reschedule. You know we can't do that. In Japanese business culture, this would be seen as incredibly disrespectful. They would think we're not serious about the partnership. But surely they would understand that it's an emergency situation? Robert shook his head. They planned this trip months ago. They're flying back to Tokyo tonight. If we can't meet today, the deal is dead. Patricia knocked on the door again. Sir, I just got off the phone with a freelance translator in San Francisco. She said she could do a video call translation, but the connection quality might not be good enough for an important meeting. Robert felt a flicker of hope. Set it up. It's better than nothing. Sir, she's asking for her fee up front. $5,000. Pay it. Whatever it takes. Patricia left to make the arrangements. Robert tried to calm himself down, but the panic was still there, just under the surface. A video call translation was better than nothing, but it was far from ideal. Technical delays, poor audio quality, and the lack of in-person cultural awareness could still kill the deal. His phone rang. The caller ID showed it was his biggest investor. Robert, I just wanted to wish you luck today. This Japanese partnership is exactly what we need to take the company to the next level. Robert couldn't bring himself to explain the situation. Thanks, Thomas. I appreciate your confidence. After this deal closes, we'll be looking at expansion into South Korea and China. You're building something really special here. The call ended and Robert felt even worse. Not only was he about to lose the Japanese deal, but he was also about to disappoint the investors who believed in him. Jake was on his phone, frantically calling his own contacts. What about your college roommate? Didn't he live in Japan for a few years? He's in Germany on business. I already checked. My cousin's wife is Japanese. Let me call her. Robert felt another flicker of hope as Jake dialed. Maybe there was still a chance. Jake's conversation lasted several minutes, but Robert could tell from his expression that it wasn't going well. Finally, Jake hung up. She speaks Japanese, but she's never done business translation. She's afraid she might make a mistake with the technical terms. Could she at least help with basic communication? She's 3 hours away and she has 2 young kids. She can't just drop everything and drive here. Robert felt the panic rising again. 16 minutes until the meeting, and he was no closer to a solution than he had been an hour ago. Patricia returned with her laptop. Sir, I have the San Francisco translator on standby. She's ready to join the video call when the meeting starts. Robert nodded, but he knew it wasn't going to be enough. The Japanese executives would see the video setup as unprofessional and impersonal. In a culture that valued face-to-face relationships, conducting business through a computer screen was almost insulting. He looked around the conference room one more time. The table was set for 6 people, 3 Japanese executives, himself, Jake, and the translator who should have been sitting in the empty chair. Now that chair would remain empty, a constant reminder of his failure. The elevator dinged outside the conference room. Robert's heart stopped. Were the Japanese executives early? But it was just the building's maintenance staff, wheeling a cart full of cleaning supplies. Robert watched them through the glass wall, and for a moment he wondered if any of them might speak Japanese. But even if they did, he couldn't ask maintenance workers to translate a $50 million business deal. 14 minutes. Robert closed his eyes and tried to prepare himself for the most embarrassing moment of his professional life. In 14 minutes, he would have to face 3 respected business executives and admit that he couldn't communicate with them. The thought made him feel sick to his stomach. Everything he had worked for, everything his employees had sacrificed for, was about to crumble because of his own arrogance and poor treatment of the one person who could have saved him. The elevator dinged again and Robert's stomach lurched. But instead of Japanese executives, a young woman in a bright yellow delivery uniform stepped out, carrying several bags of food. She had beautiful dark skin, her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she was checking something on her phone as she walked. Robert barely glanced at her. He was too busy trying to figure out how to explain to 3 Japanese businessmen that he couldn't understand them. Patricia approached the delivery woman to handle the lunch orders that had been placed earlier. "Excuse me," the delivery woman said to Patricia, "I have an order for Sterling Technologies. Someone ordered sushi and Japanese tea for 6 people." Robert's head snapped up. The irony was crushing. Here he was, about to fail at communicating with Japanese executives, and someone had ordered Japanese food for the meeting. The universe seemed to be mocking him. "That's for the conference room," Patricia said, pointing toward where Robert and Jake were standing. The delivery woman nodded and began walking toward them. As she got closer, Robert could see she was probably in her mid-20s, with kind eyes and a professional manner despite her casual work clothes. "Good afternoon," she said politely. "I have your Japanese lunch order. Where would you like me to set it up?" "Just put it on the side table," Patricia said, clearly stressed. "We might not even need it now." The delivery woman, whose name tag read Jasmine, began arranging the food carefully. She had obviously done this many times before, setting out the sushi platters and tea service with practiced efficiency. Robert was pacing again, muttering to himself about the impossibility of his situation. 12 minutes. How am I supposed to explain to 3 Japanese executives that I can't understand them? This is insane. Jasmine paused in her work and looked over at him. "Excuse me, but did you say you need to communicate with Japanese executives?" Robert barely heard her. He was too busy panicking. "Yes, the most important meeting of my life, and I don't have a translator. My regular translator quit, and I can't find anyone else in the entire city who speaks Japanese." "I speak Japanese," Jasmine said quietly. The room went completely silent. Robert, Jake, and Patricia all turned to stare at her. "What did you say?" Robert asked. "I said I speak Japanese. Fluently." Robert felt his heart skip a beat. "You're a delivery driver." "Yes, I deliver food. But I also speak Japanese. My grandmother was Japanese and she raised me until I was 10. I learned it as my first language." Jake stepped forward. "Are you serious? You actually speak Japanese?" "Hi, watashi wa nihongo wa hanashimasu. Sor wa watashi no soto no daini jengo disu." "Yes, I speak Japanese. It's essentially my second native language." Robert felt a rush of hope so strong it almost made him dizzy. "Can you prove it? Can you translate something complex?" Jasmine looked a little hurt by his skeptical tone, but she nodded. "What would you like me to translate?" Patricia handed her a copy of the contract they were supposed to discuss. "Try this paragraph about intellectual property rights." Jasmine read it carefully, then began speaking in Japanese. Her pronunciation was perfect, her grammar flawless. She explained complex legal terms with ease, demonstrating not just language skills but also understanding of business concepts. "That's incredible," Jake whispered. "She's actually fluent." Robert felt like he might cry from relief. "How long have you been delivering food?" "About 6 months. I graduated from business school last year, but I haven't found a position in my field yet. I'm working 3 jobs to help support my family." "Business school?" Robert's mind was racing. "What was your major?" "International business with a focus on Asian markets. I wrote my thesis on Japanese corporate culture." Robert looked at Jake, who was grinning from ear to ear. The solution to their problem had literally walked through the door carrying lunch. "Jasmine, I need to ask you something and I know it's going to sound crazy. Would you be willing to help me with a business meeting? Right now. It starts in 10 minutes. Jasmine looked confused. "I'm working. I have 5 more deliveries to make. I'll pay you $1,000 to stay here for 2 hours. Jasmine's eyes widened. $1,000? And I'll call your delivery company and explain that you're helping with an emergency situation. Jasmine looked down at her uniform, then back at Robert. "I'm not dressed for a business meeting." Patricia jumped in. I have a spare blazer in my office. It might be a little big, but it will work. Robert could see Jasmine thinking it over. What exactly would I need to do? Translate for a meeting with 3 Japanese executives. We're discussing a software partnership. It's extremely important. How important? Jake answered this time. $50 million important. And about 20 jobs important. Jasmine was quiet for a moment. I've never done professional translation before. What if I make a mistake? You won't, Robert said, and he meant it. Her Japanese was better than Mrs. Tanaka's, and her understanding of business concepts was obvious. Besides, you can't do worse than having no translator at all. What about my other deliveries? Robert pulled out his phone. Give me the number for your delivery company. I'll pay for all the orders you can't deliver and explain that you're helping with an emergency. Jasmine hesitated. This is really strange. I came here to deliver sushi, and now you're asking me to translate $1 million business deal. 50 million, Jake corrected. And yes, it's strange. But sometimes the best solutions come from the most unexpected places. Robert looked at his watch. 8 minutes. Jasmine, I know this is a lot to ask. But I'm desperate. My entire company depends on this meeting, and you're the only person who can help me. Jasmine looked around the conference room, taking in the expensive furniture and the view of the city. If I agree to help, what happens after the meeting? What do you mean? I mean, do I go back to delivering food while you go back to being a millionaire? Robert was taken aback by the question. I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. I have a bachelor's degree in business and a master's in international relations. I speak 3 languages fluently. But I'm delivering food because no one will give me a chance to prove myself in the business world. Robert felt a pang of guilt. Here was a highly educated, talented woman working as a delivery driver, and he was about to ask her to save his business without offering her anything beyond a one-time payment. If you help me today, he said slowly, I promise I'll help you find a position that matches your qualifications. In your company? If that's what you want, yes. Jasmine looked at Patricia, who nodded encouragingly. He's a good boss when he's not panicking. And he keeps his promises. Okay, Jasmine said finally. I'll help you. But I need that blazer, and I need 5 minutes to review any materials you have about the deal. Robert felt like he could breathe again for the first time in hours. Patricia, get the blazer. Jake, give her our presentation materials. And Jasmine. He paused, looking at this young woman who had just saved his career. Thank you. You have no idea what this means to me. Jasmine was already reading through the contract, her brow furrowed in concentration. This is actually a really good deal for both companies. The Japanese executives should be impressed. If we can communicate with them, Robert said. Oh, we can communicate with them, Jasmine said confidently. That's not going to be a problem. For the first time in hours, Robert believed her. As Patricia returned with the blazer and Jake helped Jasmine review the presentation materials, Robert felt his panic finally beginning to subside. In 5 minutes, the most important meeting of his life would begin. And thanks to a delivery driver who happened to speak Japanese, he actually had a chance of success. Jasmine slipped into Patricia's navy blazer, which was indeed a bit large but still looked professional. She had quickly pinned her hair up in a more formal style and was now standing at the head of the conference table, reviewing the presentation materials one last time. Okay, she said, looking up at Robert. I've read through everything. The software platform, the licensing agreements, the profit-sharing structure. I understand what you're trying to accomplish. Robert nodded, but he was still nervous. Jasmine, I have to be honest with you. These aren't just any Japanese executives. They're from Yamamoto Industries, one of the largest tech companies in Tokyo. They're extremely formal, very traditional in their business approach. I understand Japanese business culture, Jasmine said calmly. My grandmother taught me about respect, hierarchy, and proper protocol. I won't embarrass you. Jake was looking out the window. I can see their car pulling up now. Black sedan, 3 men in suits. Robert felt his heart rate spike again. Are you sure about this, Jasmine? There's still time to set up the video call with the translator in San Francisco. Mr. Sterling, Jasmine said, and her voice was firm but kind. I've got this. Trust me. The elevator dinged and Patricia went to greet the visitors. Robert could hear voices in the hallway, Patricia speaking English, and 3 men responding in Japanese. Then Patricia's voice again, explaining that they would be meeting in the conference room. They're here, Robert whispered. Jasmine straightened her blazer and picked up her notepad. Remember, in Japanese business culture, the introductions are very important. Let me handle the formal greetings and follow my lead on the bowing. The conference room door opened, and Patricia entered with 3 Japanese men in impeccably tailored suits. They were all middle-aged, with serious expressions and briefcases. Robert recognized them from the photos he had studied: Mr. Yamamoto, the company president, Mr. Sato, the head of international development, and Mr. Tanaka, the technical director. Jasmine stepped forward and bowed deeply. Yamamoto-san, Sato-san, Tanaka-san, welcome to Sterling Technologies. I am Jasmine Washington, and I will be serving as your translator today. She spoke in perfect Japanese, her pronunciation flawless and her tone respectful. The 3 men looked surprised but pleased. Mr. Yamamoto responded in Japanese, and Jasmine listened carefully before turning to Robert. Mr. Yamamoto says they are honored to be here and are looking forward to learning about your software platform. He also says they are impressed that you have provided a translator who speaks such beautiful Japanese. Robert felt a wave of relief. Please tell them that we are honored to have them here, and that we've been looking forward to this meeting for months. Jasmine translated, and the Japanese executives smiled and nodded. Mr. Sato said something in Japanese and Jasmine's face lit up. Mr. Sato says he's impressed that you've hired someone who clearly understands Japanese business culture. He can tell from my greeting that I was properly trained. Robert realized he was witnessing something special. Jasmine wasn't just translating words, she was translating meaning, context, and cultural nuances. She was doing exactly what Mrs. Tanaka had done, but with a warmth and enthusiasm that even the Japanese executives seemed to appreciate. Please, gentlemen, have a seat, Robert said. We've prepared a presentation that we hope will interest you. As Jasmine translated, the executives took their seats. Mr. Yamamoto was directly across from Robert, with Mr. Sato and Mr. Tanaka on either side. Jasmine sat at the side of the table where she could see everyone clearly. Robert began his presentation, explaining the software platform that his company had developed. Every few sentences, he would pause to let Jasmine translate. Her Japanese was smooth and confident, and she was clearly conveying not just his words but his enthusiasm for the project. But then Mr. Tanaka asked a technical question that made Robert's heart sink. The question was long and complex, full of technical terms that Robert wasn't sure any translator could handle properly. Jasmine listened carefully, taking notes as Mr. Tanaka spoke. When he finished, she turned to Robert. Mr. Tanaka is asking about the scalability of your database architecture. Specifically, he wants to know if your system can handle the volume of transactions that Yamamoto Industries processes daily, approximately 2.5 million transactions per hour during peak times. He's also concerned about data security protocols and whether your encryption methods meet Japanese government standards for financial data. Robert's mouth dropped open. Not only had Jasmine translated the technical question perfectly, but she had also provided context that helped him understand exactly what information the executives needed. Tell Mr. Tanaka that our database uses a distributed architecture with automatic load balancing, Robert said. We've tested it with up to 5 million transactions per hour with no performance degradation. And yes, our encryption meets both Japanese and international standards for financial data. Jasmine translated, and Mr. Tanaka nodded approvingly. He asked a follow-up question about backup procedures, which Jasmine handled just as expertly. For the next hour, the meeting flowed smoothly. The Japanese executives asked detailed questions about the software, the licensing terms, and the implementation timeline. Jasmine translated everything perfectly, often adding cultural context that helped both sides understand each other better. At one point, Mr. Yamamoto made a comment that made all 3 executives laugh. Jasmine smiled and turned to Robert. Mr. Yamamoto made a joke about how American companies usually promise everything but deliver half. He says he's pleasantly surprised that your presentation is realistic and honest about both the capabilities and limitations of your software. Robert laughed. Please tell him that we believe in honesty in business relationships. We'd rather promise less and deliver more than the other way around. When Jasmine translated this, Mr. Yamamoto smiled broadly and said something that made the other executives nod in agreement. He says that's exactly the kind of business partner they're looking for, Jasmine reported. He's impressed with your approach. As the meeting continued, Robert found himself watching Jasmine as much as the executives. She was completely in her element, moving seamlessly between English and Japanese, reading the room for cultural cues, and helping both sides understand not just what was being said but what was meant. At one point, she caught Mr. Sato using a phrase that could have been misunderstood and quietly clarified the meaning before translating. When Mr. Tanaka looked confused about a technical term, She provided a brief explanation that helped him follow the conversation. "She's incredible," Jake whispered to Robert during a brief break. "She's not just translating, she's facilitating." Robert nodded. He had been in international business meetings before, but he had never seen translation done so skillfully. Jasmine was making the conversation flow naturally despite the language barrier. When the formal presentation ended, Mr. Yamamoto asked if they could have a few minutes to discuss the proposal among themselves. Robert and Jake stepped out of the conference room, leaving Jasmine with the three executives. "Do you think it's going well?" Robert asked. "Better than well," Jake said. "They're engaged, they're asking good questions, and they seem genuinely interested in the partnership." "All thanks to Jasmine," Robert said. "I can't believe she was delivering food this morning." Through the glass wall they could see Jasmine chatting with the executives. She was laughing at something Mr. Sato had said, and the atmosphere in the room looked relaxed and friendly. "I think she's talking to them about more than just business," Jake observed. When they returned to the conference room, Jasmine was beaming. "They're very impressed with your presentation," she said. "They think your software could be exactly what they need for their expansion into Southeast Asia." Mr. Yamamoto spoke for several minutes, with the other executives occasionally adding comments. Jasmine listened carefully, occasionally asking clarifying questions in Japanese. "Mr. Yamamoto says they're prepared to move forward with the partnership," Jasmine announced. "They want to begin with a 6-month trial period, with the option to extend to a full 5-year agreement if the software performs as promised." Robert felt like he might collapse from relief. "That's exactly what we were hoping for. Please tell them we accept their terms." But as Jasmine began to translate, Mr. Yamamoto held up his hand and said something else in Japanese. His tone was more serious now, and Robert's heart began to race again. "What's he saying?" Robert asked. Jasmine looked a bit concerned. "He says there's one condition. They want to make sure that all future communications will be handled by someone who understands both the technical aspects and the cultural requirements. He's asking if I will be their primary point of contact for this partnership." Robert looked at Jasmine, who was still wearing Patricia's borrowed blazer and had been delivering food just 2 hours ago. "What should I tell them?" "Tell them yes," Jasmine said without hesitation. "I mean, if you're serious about that job offer you made earlier." Robert realized that this was the moment that would define not just the business deal, but potentially both of their futures. He looked at this young woman who had saved his company and was now being specifically requested by one of Japan's largest corporations. "Jasmine," he said carefully, "I want to offer you a position as our Director of International Relations with a starting salary of $90,000 plus benefits. Your primary responsibility will be managing our relationship with Yamamoto Industries and helping us expand into other Asian markets." Jasmine's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" "I've never been more serious about anything in my life." She turned to the Japanese executives and spoke in their language. Mr. Yamamoto smiled and responded enthusiastically. The other executives nodded their approval. "They're very pleased," Jasmine said. "Mr. Yamamoto says he looks forward to working with me, and he's impressed that you make such quick and decisive business decisions." The rest of the meeting flew by in a blur of handshakes, bows, and exchanged business cards. The Japanese executives agreed to send a technical team to begin the integration process within 2 weeks. Robert agreed to provide detailed documentation and training materials. And Jasmine agreed to coordinate everything, starting immediately. As the executives prepared to leave, Mr. Sato said something to Jasmine that made her blush and smile. "What did he say?" Robert asked. "He said I have a bright future in international business, and that Yamamoto Industries is lucky to have found such a skilled communicator." After the executives left, the conference room fell silent. Robert, Jake, Patricia, and Jasmine all looked at each other, barely believing what had just happened. "Did we just save the company?" Jake asked. "We did more than that," Robert said. "We just secured our future for the next 5 years." He turned to Jasmine. "I need to ask you something. Why didn't you tell me about your business background when you first offered to help? You let me think you were just a delivery driver." Jasmine was quiet for a moment. "Because that's how people see me. I've been to dozens of job interviews where they looked at my resume and were impressed, but the moment they met me they made assumptions about what I could do. I've learned that sometimes it's better to let my work speak for itself." Robert felt a wave of shame. "I did the same thing, didn't I? I assumed you couldn't possibly be qualified just because you were delivering food." "Most people do," Jasmine said simply. "But you gave me a chance to prove myself, and that's more than most people do." Patricia spoke up. "Jasmine, you were amazing in there. I've seen a lot of business meetings and I've never seen anyone handle translation and cultural mediation like that. My grandmother always taught me that communication is about more than just words, Jasmine said. It's about understanding what people really mean and helping them connect with each other. Robert walked over to the window and looked out at the city. Jasmine, I want to be completely honest with you. 2 hours ago I was about to lose everything. My company, my employees' jobs, my reputation. You didn't just translate for me, you saved my entire career. And you gave me the opportunity I've been waiting for, Jasmine replied. I think we helped each other. Jake was grinning from ear to ear. This is like something out of a movie. The delivery driver who saves the day and gets the job of her dreams. It's not a movie, Robert said. It's real life. And sometimes real life surprises you in the best possible way. Jasmine looked around the conference room one more time. So I guess I should call my delivery company and tell them I quit? I guess you should, Robert said. But first, let me call my lawyer and have him draw up your employment contract. I want to make this official as quickly as possible. As Patricia began making calls to set up Jasmine's new office and Jake started planning the integration with Yamamoto Industries, Robert found himself thinking about how quickly everything had changed. This morning, he had been a successful but arrogant businessman who treated people poorly. Tonight, he was still successful, but he was also humbled and grateful. And it was all because a young woman with a delivery uniform and a brilliant mind had walked into his office at exactly the right moment. The next morning, Robert arrived at the office to find Jasmine already at her new desk, which Patricia had hastily set up in the office next to his. She was wearing a professional gray suit and was on the phone, speaking in Japanese. Good morning, Robert said when she hung up. Early start. Mr. Yamamoto called at 7 a.m., Jasmine said. He wanted to discuss the timeline for the technical team's visit. I think he's as excited about this partnership as we are. Robert poured himself coffee from the machine Patricia had installed in Jasmine's office. What did he say? They want to move faster than originally planned. Instead of 2 weeks, they want to send their team next week. They're also interested in expanding the partnership to include their subsidiary companies in South Korea and Singapore. Robert nearly choked on his coffee. Are you serious? Very serious. Mr. Yamamoto said that yesterday's meeting was the most productive international business discussion he's had in years. He wants to capitalize on the momentum. That's incredible. What did you tell him? I told him we'd be ready for his team whenever they wanted to come. I hope that was okay. Robert sat down across from her desk. Jasmine, I need you to understand something. You have complete authority to make decisions about this partnership. I trust your judgment completely. Even though I've been on the job for less than 24 hours? Especially because you've been on the job for less than 24 hours. You've already accomplished more than most people do in their first year. Jasmine smiled. Thank you for trusting me. Over the next few days, Robert watched in amazement as Jasmine transformed from a delivery driver into a polished international business professional. She coordinated with the Japanese technical team, arranged for translators for the engineers who didn't speak English, and set up a comprehensive schedule for the integration process. But more than that, she was helping Robert understand aspects of Japanese business culture that he had never considered. She explained the importance of group consensus in Japanese decision-making, the significance of saving face in business relationships, and the value of long-term thinking over short-term profits. In American business, she said during one of their morning meetings, we tend to focus on individual achievement and quick results. But Japanese companies think in terms of decades, not quarters. They're not just buying our software, they're investing in a long-term relationship. Is that why Mr. Yamamoto was so specific about wanting you as the primary contact? Partly. But also because he could see that I understand the cultural bridge between our companies. It's not enough to speak the language, you have to understand the thinking behind the language. Robert found himself looking forward to these morning conversations. Jasmine had a way of explaining complex cultural concepts in simple terms, and she was teaching him to see business from a completely different perspective. I have a confession, he said one morning. I've been in business for 15 years and I thought I understood international commerce. But you've taught me more about it in 1 week than I learned in all those years. You understood the technical side, Jasmine said. But business is about relationships, not just products. Is that something your grandmother taught you? Jasmine's expression grew softer. She taught me that every person has value regardless of their job or their background. She said that if you treat people with respect and try to understand their perspective, you can accomplish amazing things. She sounds like a wise woman. She was. She died when I was in college, but her lessons have guided me ever since. Robert was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry I didn't treat Mrs. Tanaka with respect. If I had, none of this would have happened. Maybe it needed to happen, Jasmine said. Maybe we both needed to be in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. The Japanese technical team arrived the following Monday, and Robert was nervous about how the integration would go. But Jasmine managed everything flawlessly, serving as both translator and project coordinator. She helped the Japanese engineers understand the software architecture while helping Robert's team understand the specific requirements of the Japanese market. She's incredible, Jake told Robert after the first day of meetings. She's not just translating, she's anticipating problems and solving them before they happen. I know. I keep thinking about how close we came to losing everything. But we didn't lose everything. We found something better than we ever imagined. Robert watched through his office window as Jasmine explained a technical concept to one of the Japanese engineers. She was drawing diagrams on a whiteboard, switching seamlessly between English and Japanese as she made sure everyone understood. Jake, I need to ask you something. Do you think I'm making a mistake? About what? About Jasmine. About promoting someone so quickly. About changing our entire business strategy based on one meeting. Jake was quiet for a moment. Robert, in all the years I've known you, I've never seen you doubt yourself about business decisions. What's really bothering you? Robert sat down heavily in his chair. I'm starting to realize that I've been doing business wrong for years. I've been focused on profits and growth, but I've been ignoring the human side of business. Jasmine has shown me that there's a better way. And that scares you? It terrifies me. What if I can't change? What if I go back to my old ways? Jake smiled. Robert, you've already changed. The old you would never have hired Jasmine. The old you would never have admitted that you needed help. The old you would never have asked for advice. You think so? I know so. And besides, you've got Jasmine now. She's not going to let you go back to your old ways. As if summoned by their conversation, Jasmine knocked on the door. Mr. Sterling? Mr. Yamamoto would like to speak with you. He has some exciting news. Robert picked up his phone and activated the speaker. Good morning, Mr. Yamamoto. Jasmine began translating as Mr. Yamamoto spoke. He says the integration is going even better than expected. His technical team is very impressed with our software and our approach to customer service. Mr. Yamamoto continued speaking and Jasmine's eyes widened. He says he's spoken with the presidents of 3 other Japanese companies, and they're all interested in licensing our software. He's asking if we'd be interested in a regional partnership that could be worth over $200 million. Robert felt his heart skip a beat. 200 million? He says he's never seen a foreign company adapt so quickly to Japanese business culture. He wants to know if we'd be interested in opening a permanent office in Tokyo, with Jasmine as our regional director. Robert looked at Jasmine, who was trying to hide her excitement. What would that involve? As Jasmine translated the question, Mr. Yamamoto launched into a detailed explanation. When he finished, Jasmine took a deep breath. He's offering us a chance to become the exclusive software provider for a consortium of Japanese companies. It would mean expanding our staff, opening offices in Tokyo and possibly Seoul, and committing to a 5-year development program. And he wants you to run it? He says he's never met a foreign business representative who understands Japanese culture so well. He thinks I could help other American companies succeed in Japan. Robert felt a mixture of excitement and fear. This was beyond his wildest dreams, but it was also a huge risk. What do you think, Jasmine? I think it's an incredible opportunity, but it's also a big decision. You'd be betting the entire future of your company on this partnership. No, Robert said quietly. I'd be betting the future of my company on you. Jasmine was quiet for a moment. Mr. Sterling, can I ask you something? Of course. A week ago you didn't trust me to translate a single meeting. Now you're considering making me the regional director of a $200 million operation. What changed? Robert thought about it. You did exactly what you said you would do. You saved my company, and you've exceeded every expectation I had. But more than that, you've shown me a different way to think about business. A better way. And you trust me? I trust you completely. Jasmine smiled and picked up the phone. Mr. Yamamoto? Please tell me more about this consortium. That evening, Robert found himself staying late at the office, something he rarely did anymore since hiring Jasmine. She had made his work life so much more efficient that he actually had time for a personal life again. But tonight, he was thinking about the conversation with Mr. Yamamoto and what it meant for the future. Jasmine knocked on his door around 7 p.m. I thought you might still be here. Mind if I come in? Of course. I was just thinking about today's conversation. Jasmine sat down across from his desk. It's a lot to process, isn't it? $200 million. A year ago, I would have jumped at an opportunity like this without hesitation. Now I'm wondering if I'm qualified to handle something so big. You're qualified, Jasmine said firmly. You built this company from nothing. You created software that Japanese companies want to license. You recognized an opportunity when it walked through your door. Robert smiled. The opportunity was you, and I almost missed it completely. But you didn't miss it. That's what matters. Robert leaned back in his chair. Jasmine, can I ask you something personal? Sure. What was it like working 3 jobs and getting rejected from positions you were overqualified for? Jasmine was quiet for a moment. Frustrating. Demoralizing. There were days when I wondered if I'd made a mistake getting so much education. My friends who went straight to work after high school were making more money than I was. Why didn't you give up? Because my grandmother always told me that the right opportunity would come along if I was patient and prepared. She said that sometimes you have to take jobs that don't match your qualifications because those jobs teach you things you can't learn in school. Like what? Like humility. Like understanding that every person has value regardless of their job title. Like learning that the most important business skill isn't knowing how to make money, it's knowing how to connect with people. Robert nodded. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. About how I treated Mrs. Tanaka, about how I almost treated you. You did treat me with respect once you realized I could help you. But I shouldn't have needed a crisis to see your value. I should have been able to see it from the beginning. Jasmine smiled. Robert, can I tell you something? You're not the first successful businessman who's had to learn these lessons. The fact that you're learning them now and that you're willing to change is what makes you different. Different how? Most people in your position would have gone back to their old ways as soon as the crisis was over. They would have hired me as a translator and forgotten about everything else. But you're trying to understand the bigger picture. Robert was quiet for a moment. I think I'm starting to understand why Mr. Yamamoto was so impressed with our meeting. It wasn't just about the software, was it? No, it wasn't. Japanese business culture values long-term relationships and mutual respect. When he saw how you treated me during the meeting and how you immediately recognized my value, he knew he was dealing with someone who understood these principles. Even though I had just learned them that day? Sometimes the most important lessons are the ones we learn under pressure. Robert stood up and walked to the window. The city was lit up below them, and he could see people walking on the sidewalks going about their evening routines. Jasmine, I want to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me. Okay. Do you think I can really change? Do you think I can become the kind of businessman who treats people with respect and builds long-term relationships? Jasmine joined him at the window. I think you already have changed. The question is whether you believe it. What do you mean? I mean that change isn't a destination, it's a daily choice. Every day you can choose to treat people with respect or to treat them as tools. Every day you can choose to build relationships or to just focus on profits. Robert thought about this. And you think I'll make the right choices? I think you'll make mostly right choices, and when you make wrong ones you'll learn from them. That's what growth looks like. They stood in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching the city below. Finally, Robert spoke again. Jasmine, there's something else I want to ask you. Something I've been curious about since our first day working together. What's that? Why did you decide to help me? I was a complete stranger having a panic attack about a business meeting. You could have just delivered the food and left. Why did you get involved? Jasmine was quiet for a long moment. Honestly? Because you looked like you needed help and I knew I could provide it. It wasn't more complicated than that. But you risked your job with the delivery company. You put on a borrowed blazer and walked into a meeting worth $50 million. That took a lot of courage. Or a lot of stupidity, Jasmine said with a laugh. I'm still not sure which. It was courage. And it changed both of our lives. Yes, it did. Robert turned to face her. Jasmine, I want you to know that offering you this job wasn't just about gratitude. You've proven yourself to be one of the most talented business professionals I've ever worked with. This partnership with Yamamoto Industries is going to succeed because of your skills and your understanding of international business. Thank you. That means a lot to me. And I want you to know that whatever happens with this Japanese consortium, you'll always have a place in this company. You've earned it. Jasmine smiled. I appreciate that. But I hope you know that I'm not just working here because you gave me a chance. I'm working here because I believe in what we're building together. What are we building? A different kind of business. One that values people as much as profits. One that builds relationships instead of just closing deals. Robert felt a warmth in his chest. I like the sound of that. Me too. They were interrupted by Robert's phone ringing. He glanced at the caller ID and saw that it was his mother. I should take this, he said. She worries when I work late. Of course. I should head home anyway. As Jasmine gathered her things, Robert answered the phone. Hi, Mom. Robert, honey, I was just calling to check on you. I heard about your big Japanese deal from Patricia. I'm so proud of you. Thanks, Mom. It's been an exciting week. Patricia also told me about your new employee. She says she's wonderful. Robert glanced at Jasmine, who was pretending not to listen as she put on her coat. She is wonderful. She's the most talented person I've ever hired. I'd love to meet her sometime. Maybe you could bring her to Sunday dinner next week? Robert felt his heart skip a beat. His mother only invited his employees to family dinners if she thought they were special. I'll ask her. Good. I'll make my famous pot roast. After his mother hung up, Robert looked at Jasmine. My mother wants to meet you. That's nice. She sounds lovely. She is. And she only invites people to family dinner if she thinks they're important. Jasmine paused in putting on her coat. Important how? Important to me, Robert said quietly. They looked at each other for a moment and Robert felt something shift in the air between them. It was subtle, but it was there a recognition that their relationship had evolved beyond just employer and employee. I should go, Jasmine said softly. Yes, you should. But neither of them moved. They stood there in the quiet office, the city lights twinkling below them, both aware that something was happening between them but neither sure what to do about it. Finally, Jasmine smiled. Good night, Robert. Good night, Jasmine. After she left, Robert sat alone in his office for a long time, thinking about everything that had happened in the past week. He had gained a business partner, expanded his company internationally, and discovered a different way of thinking about success. But more than that, he had met someone who challenged him to be better than he had ever been before. Someone who saw potential in him that he hadn't even known existed. And if he was being honest with himself, someone he was starting to care about in ways that went far beyond business. The next morning, Robert found himself arriving at the office early, something that had become a habit since Jasmine started working there. He told himself it was because he wanted to review the Japanese consortium proposal, but the truth was that he looked forward to their morning conversations. Jasmine was already at her desk when he arrived, and she looked up with a smile that made his heart skip a beat. Good morning. I have news about the consortium. Good news or bad news? Very good news. I spoke with Mr. Yamamoto this morning, and he's arranged for us to meet with the consortium executives next month in Tokyo. All 5 companies want to hear our proposal. Robert felt a surge of excitement. That's incredible. How many people are we talking about? About 20 executives total. It will be a 3-day series of meetings with formal presentations and cultural events. Cultural events? Traditional Japanese dinner, tea ceremony, and a visit to a technology center. It's their way of getting to know us as people, not just as business partners. Robert sat down across from her desk. Jasmine, I need to be honest with you. I've never been to Japan and I don't know anything about Japanese cultural events. I'm going to need you to guide me through everything. That's why I'm here, she said with a smile. But Robert, there's something else we need to discuss. What's that? The consortium is offering us something beyond just a software licensing deal. They want to create a joint venture, a new company that would be half American, half Japanese. We would provide the technology and they would provide the market access and cultural expertise. Robert felt his pulse quicken. What kind of numbers are we talking about? Initial investment of $100 million, with projected revenues of $500 million over the first 3 years. Robert stared at her. Are you serious? Completely serious. But there's a catch. What kind of catch? They want the new company to be headquartered in Tokyo, with you as the American president and me as the cultural liaison. We would need to relocate to Japan for at least 2 years. Robert felt like the room was spinning. Move to Japan? I know it's a lot to ask. You have your life here, your family, your other business interests. What about you? What do you think about moving to Japan? Jasmine was quiet for a moment. Honestly, it's a dream come true. I've always wanted to work in international business, and this would be the opportunity of a lifetime. But I don't want to push you into something you're not comfortable with. This is your company, your decision. Robert stood up and walked to the window. The city stretched out below him, the city where he had built his business, where his family lived, where his entire life was rooted. Can I ask you something, Jasmine? Of course. If I said no to this opportunity, would you be disappointed? I'd be disappointed for both of us. But I'd understand. And if I said yes? Then I'd be excited and terrified and honored to take this journey with you. Robert turned back to face her. You said with me. Yes, I did. This partnership, it's not just about business anymore, is it? Jasmine met his eyes. No, it's not. They looked at each other for a long moment, both aware that they were crossing a line from professional to personal territory. Jasmine, I need to tell you something. This past week, working with you, learning from you, it's been the best week of my professional life. But more than that, it's been the best week of my personal life too. Robert, I know it's complicated. I know there are issues with me being your boss, with the power dynamics, with the fact that we've only known each other for a week. But I can't ignore what I'm feeling. Jasmine was quiet for a moment. What are you feeling? I'm feeling like I want to take this journey with you. Not just the business journey but the personal one too. I'm feeling like maybe we could build something together that's bigger than either of us could build alone. Are you talking about the business or about us? Both. Jasmine stood up and walked over to where he was standing. Robert, I need to be honest with you too. I've been thinking about this all week. About what's happening between us, about whether it's real or just the excitement of everything that's been happening. And what did you decide? I decided that it's real. At least it's real for me. Robert felt his heart racing. So what do we do about it? I don't know. I've never been in this situation before. Neither have I. They stood close together, the morning sun streaming through the window behind them, both aware that they were at a crossroads that would determine not just their professional future but their personal future as well. Jasmine, I want to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Okay. If we do this, if we move to Japan together, if we build this business together, are you doing it because you want to be with me or because you want the career opportunity? Jasmine smiled. Can't it be both? I suppose it can. But I need to know which one is more important to you. Robert, a week ago, I was delivering food and wondering if I'd ever get a chance to use my education. Today, I'm being offered the opportunity to run a $500 million international business. Do you know how incredible that is? I do. But do you know what's even more incredible? What? The fact that I'm sharing this opportunity with someone who values me not just for what I can do, but for who I am. Robert felt a warmth spreading through his chest. Is that a yes? That's a yes to the business opportunity. And it's a yes to exploring whatever this is between us. Even though it's complicated? Especially because it's complicated. The best things in life usually are. Robert reached out and took her hand. Jasmine, I want to promise you something. Whatever happens between us personally, I will never let it affect your professional opportunities. This business deal, this job, your career, none of that depends on what happens between us romantically. I appreciate that. But Robert, I need to make you a promise too. What's that? I promise that whatever happens between us personally, I will never let it affect my professional performance. This business deal is too important and too many people are counting on us. So we're really doing this? We're really doing this. They stood there holding hands, both aware that they were about to embark on an adventure that would change their lives forever. The phone rang, interrupting the moment. That's probably Mr. Yamamoto, Jasmine said, glancing at the caller ID. He said he'd call this morning with more details about the Tokyo meetings. Answer it, Robert said. Let's start planning our future. As Jasmine picked up the phone and began speaking in Japanese, Robert felt a sense of excitement and anticipation that he hadn't experienced in years. He was about to move to Japan, start a new business, and explore a relationship with the most remarkable woman he had ever met. A week ago, he had been a successful but lonely businessman whose world was crumbling around him. Today he was embarking on the adventure of a lifetime with someone who had changed not just his business, but his entire perspective on what success really meant. And it all started with a delivery girl who happened to speak Japanese. Over the next few weeks, Robert and Jasmine worked closely together preparing for the Tokyo meetings. They spent long hours in conference rooms reviewing presentation materials, practicing cultural protocols, and learning about each of the 5 companies in the consortium. But they also spent time getting to know each other outside of work. Robert took Jasmine to his favorite restaurant, where she charmed the waitstaff with her warmth and made him laugh with her observations about American dining culture. Jasmine showed Robert her neighborhood, introducing him to her family and friends, giving him a glimpse into a world he had never experienced. Your family is wonderful, Robert said as they walked back to his car after dinner at her mother's house. They like you too. My mother said you're not what she expected. What did she expect? Someone more formal. More distant. She said you're surprisingly normal for a millionaire. Robert laughed. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not. It's definitely a compliment. In my mother's world, normal is the highest praise you can receive. They had been careful to keep their relationship professional at work, but outside the office, they were becoming closer every day. Robert found himself looking forward to their evening conversations, when they would discuss everything from business strategy to childhood memories to their dreams for the future. Can I ask you something? Jasmine said one evening as they sat in Robert's living room, reviewing the final presentation materials. Of course. Are you nervous about moving to Japan? Robert was quiet for a moment. Terrified. Really? You seem so confident about it. I'm confident about the business opportunity. I'm confident about working with you. But I'm terrified about leaving everything I know and starting over in a completely different culture. You know you'll have me to help you navigate it. I know. And that's probably the only reason I'm brave enough to do it. Jasmine smiled. You're braver than you think. A month ago you were willing to trust a complete stranger to save your business. Now you're willing to move to another country to build something new. Both of those decisions involved you. Maybe you're my good luck charm. Or maybe you're just finally learning to take smart risks. Robert set down his presentation notes and looked at her. Jasmine, can I tell you something? Sure. I've been thinking about what you said about change being a daily choice. About choosing to treat people with respect or to focus on relationships instead of just profits. And I've realized that meeting you didn't just change my business, it changed me. I look at everything differently now. I think about how my decisions affect people, not just how they affect my bottom line. That's a good thing. It is. But it's also scary. I spent 15 years building my identity around being a successful businessman. Now I'm learning that success means something completely different than I thought it did. Jasmine moved closer to him on the couch. What does it mean to you now? It means building something that matters. It means treating people with dignity and respect. It means creating opportunities for others, not just for myself. And it means being brave enough to change when you realize you've been doing things wrong. Yes, it means that too. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the presentation materials scattered on the coffee table between them. Robert, can I tell you something? Of course. I've been thinking about what you said about this relationship being complicated, about the power dynamics and the fact that we've only known each other for a short time. And I think you're right that it's complicated. But I also think that the best relationships often are. What do you mean? I mean that my grandparents met when my grandfather was my grandmother's supervisor at a factory. They had all the same complications we do: power dynamics, workplace relationships, cultural differences. But they figured it out because they were committed to treating each other with respect and honesty. How long were they married? 52 years. Until my grandfather died. Robert felt a warmth in his chest. That's a beautiful story. It's a true story. And it taught me that love isn't about perfect circumstances, it's about finding someone who makes you want to be better than you were before. Is that what this is? Love. Jasmine looked at him with a mixture of tenderness and uncertainty. I don't know. It's too early to say that word. But I know that being with you makes me want to be the best version of myself. It's the same for me, Robert said quietly. They moved closer together on the couch and Robert reached out to touch her face. Jasmine, I want to ask you something. What? When we go to Japan, when we start this new business together, how do we handle this? How do we build a professional relationship and a personal relationship at the same time? Very carefully, she said with a smile. With lots of communication and clear boundaries. And if it doesn't work out? If the personal relationship doesn't survive the stress of building a business together? Then we'll handle it like adults. We'll put the business first and find a way to work together professionally. You make it sound so simple. It's not simple. But it's possible. My grandmother used to say that anything worth having is worth fighting for. Robert leaned closer to her. And is this worth fighting for? I think so. Do you? Instead of answering with words, Robert kissed her gently. It was soft and tentative at first, then deeper as she responded. When they broke apart, they were both breathing a little harder. Does that answer your question? Robert asked. I think so, Jasmine said with a smile. But we should probably establish some ground rules. Such as no public displays of affection at work. No letting our personal feelings interfere with business decisions. And complete honesty about our feelings even when it's uncomfortable. I can agree to those rules. Good. Because tomorrow we start the final preparations for Tokyo, and we need to be completely professional. And tonight? Tonight we can be whatever we want to be. They spent the rest of the evening talking about their hopes and fears for the future, their dreams for the business, and their feelings for each other. By the time Jasmine left for her apartment, they had established not just the ground rules for their relationship, but also a deeper understanding of what they meant to each other. The next morning they were back to being completely professional colleagues, but there was an undercurrent of excitement and affection that made their work together even more effective. They finished the presentation materials, confirmed the travel arrangements, and prepared for what would be the most important business trip of their lives. "Are you ready for this?" Robert asked as they reviewed their final checklist. "I'm ready," Jasmine said. "Are you?" "I'm ready to find out." 3 days later they were on a plane to Tokyo, sitting side by side in first class, both nervous and excited about what lay ahead. As the plane lifted off, Robert looked out the window at the city disappearing below them. "Second thoughts?" Jasmine asked. "No second thoughts. Just awareness that everything is about to change. Change can be good. It can be. Especially when you have the right person to change with." Jasmine smiled and took his hand. "We're going to do great things together, Robert. I believe you're right." As the plane headed west toward their new adventure, Robert reflected on everything that had happened in the past month. He had started as a successful but arrogant businessman who treated people poorly. He was ending as someone who was learning to value relationships over profits, who was brave enough to take risks for the right reasons, and who had found someone who made him want to be better than he had ever been before. And it all started with a panic attack and a delivery girl who happened to speak Japanese. The first 2 days in Tokyo went better than Robert had dared to hope. The consortium executives were impressed with their presentation, engaged by their business model, and clearly interested in moving forward with the joint venture. Jasmine navigated the cultural requirements flawlessly, helping Robert understand the subtle nuances of Japanese business etiquette and ensuring that every meeting went smoothly. But on the third day, everything changed. Robert woke up in his hotel room to find 17 missed calls from his lawyer in Chicago. When he called back, the news was devastating. "Robert, I'm sorry to wake you, but we have a serious problem. Sterling Software is being sued by Pinnacle Industries for patent infringement. They're claiming that our core algorithm violates 3 of their patents, and they're seeking $200 million in damages." Robert felt his stomach drop. "That's impossible. We developed that algorithm ourselves." "I know, but they have documentation that suggests otherwise. They're also filing for an injunction that would prevent us from licensing the software to anyone until the case is resolved." "How long would that take?" "Patent cases can take years to resolve. And Robert, there's something else. The story has already leaked to the tech press. It's going to be front-page news in the trade publications today." Robert hung up and immediately called Jasmine's room. "We need to talk. Now." She met him in the hotel lobby 10 minutes later, and one look at his face told her that something was seriously wrong. "What happened?" Robert explained the situation, watching as the color drained from her face. "This is going to kill the consortium deal, isn't it?" "I don't know. Maybe. The Japanese don't like uncertainty, and they definitely don't like legal complications. When do we meet with the consortium executives?" "In 2 hours." Robert ran his hands through his hair. "Should we tell them about the lawsuit?" "We have to. If they find out from the news instead of from us, they'll never trust us again. But if we tell them, they'll probably walk away from the deal." "Maybe. Or maybe they'll respect our honesty and work with us to find a solution." Robert looked at her, amazed by her calm in the face of disaster. "How are you so composed about this?" "Because panicking won't help. We need to think strategically about how to handle this." "What do you suggest?" "I suggest we call Mr. Yamamoto immediately and ask for a private meeting before the consortium session. We explain the situation honestly, show them our documentation proving that we developed the algorithm independently, and ask for their advice on how to proceed. And if they decide to cancel the deal? Then we deal with that when it happens. But Robert, we can't control what Pinnacle Industries does, and we can't control how the consortium responds. We can only control how we handle this situation." Robert nodded, knowing she was right. "Make the call." An hour later, they were sitting in a private conference room with Mr. Yamamoto and 2 other senior executives. Jasmine had explained the situation in Japanese, and now they were waiting for the response. Mr. Yamamoto spoke for several minutes, his tone serious but not angry. When he finished, Jasmine translated. He says that legal challenges are not uncommon in the technology industry, and that Japanese companies face similar issues regularly. He's more concerned about our response to the crisis than about the crisis itself. What does he mean? He wants to know if we're prepared to fight the lawsuit, if we have strong legal representation, and if we have the financial resources to see it through. Robert felt a glimmer of hope. Tell him that we absolutely believe in our legal position, that we have excellent attorneys, and that we're prepared to defend our intellectual property vigorously. As Jasmine translated, Mr. Yamamoto nodded approvingly. He asked another question. He wants to know if we're willing to proceed with the consortium deal while the lawsuit is pending, or if we want to postpone until it's resolved. This was the moment of truth. Robert looked at Jasmine, then back at Mr. Yamamoto. Tell him that we're willing to proceed if the consortium is comfortable with the legal situation. But we understand if they prefer to wait. After Jasmine translated, Mr. Yamamoto consulted with his colleagues in rapid Japanese. The conversation lasted several minutes, with all three executives participating actively. Finally, Mr. Yamamoto turned back to them and spoke directly to Robert, even though he knew Robert couldn't understand him. What's he saying? Robert asked. Jasmine's eyes were wide with surprise. He says that the consortium has decided to proceed with the deal, but with some modifications. They want to accelerate the timeline and close the agreement before the lawsuit can create more complications. What kind of modifications? They want to increase their initial investment to $150 million, and they want to provide legal support to help us fight the patent case. Robert felt like he might faint. Are you serious? He says that Japanese companies understand the importance of protecting intellectual property, and that they believe in supporting their partners during difficult times. What's the catch? The catch is that they want the deal closed within 30 days, and they want us to relocate to Tokyo immediately to oversee the legal defense and the business launch simultaneously. Robert looked at Jasmine. What do you think? I think it's an incredible show of faith. They're essentially betting $150 million on our integrity and our ability to win the lawsuit. Can we handle both the legal case and the business launch at the same time? We'll have to. But Robert, this could actually work in our favor. If we can demonstrate that a major Japanese consortium believes in our legal position, it might pressure Pinnacle Industries to settle. Mr. Yamamoto spoke again, and Jasmine listened carefully. He says there's one more condition. The consortium wants me to serve as the primary liaison between their legal team and our American attorneys. They want someone who can communicate effectively in both languages and both legal systems. Can you do that? I'll have to learn as I go. But yes, I think I can do it. Robert stood up and walked to the window overlooking Tokyo Bay. A month ago, he had been a successful businessman with a comfortable life. Now he was about to relocate to Japan, fight a major lawsuit, and launch a joint venture worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And he was going to do it all with a woman he had met by accident and fallen in love with by choice. Mr. Yamamoto, he said, turning back to face the executives, please tell him that we accept their terms. We'll be honored to have the consortium as our partners, and we won't let them down. As Jasmine translated, Mr. Yamamoto smiled for the first time since the meeting began. He stood up and bowed deeply, then extended his hand to Robert. He says, welcome to the family, Jasmine translated. In Japanese business culture, that's not something they say lightly. After the executives left, Robert and Jasmine sat alone in the conference room, both trying to process what had just happened. I can't believe they're still willing to work with us, Robert said. I can. You've proven that you're trustworthy and that you value relationships over short-term profits. That's exactly what they were looking for in a partner. But what if we lose the lawsuit? Then we'll deal with that when it happens. But right now, we need to focus on what we can control, building this business and fighting for what's rightfully ours. Robert looked at her, amazed once again by her strength and wisdom. Jasmine, I need to ask you something. What? Are you sure you want to do this? Move to Japan, manage a legal case, help launch a joint venture? It's going to be incredibly stressful. Robert, a month ago I was delivering food and wondering if I'd ever get to use my education. Now I'm being asked to help manage a case that could reshape the software industry. Do you really think I'm going to say no? Even if it means dealing with all the complications between us? Especially because of the complications between us. We're building something together, not just a business but a relationship. And both of those things are worth fighting for. Robert felt a surge of love and admiration for this remarkable woman. In that case, I guess we're moving to Japan. I guess we are. As they left the conference room to prepare for the consortium meeting, Robert felt a mixture of excitement and terror. The next few months would be the most challenging of his life, but he was facing them with the strongest and most capable partner he could imagine. And if they succeeded, they would have built something extraordinary together. 6 months later, Robert stood in the conference room of their new Tokyo office, looking out at the city that had become his home. The view was spectacular. Mount Fuji was visible in the distance, and the bustling streets below showed a city that never stopped moving. But what made the view truly beautiful was the knowledge that he and Jasmine had built something meaningful together. The patent lawsuit had been resolved 3 months earlier, when Pinnacle Industries suddenly dropped their case after Robert's legal team discovered that Pinnacle had actually stolen the algorithm from a former employee. The vindication had been sweet, but the real victory was that the consortium had stood by them throughout the entire process. "Are you ready for the board meeting?" Jasmine asked, entering the conference room with a stack of quarterly reports. "As ready as I'll ever be," Robert replied, turning to face her. "How are the numbers looking?" "Better than projected. We're ahead of schedule on revenue targets, and the customer satisfaction scores are off the charts." Robert smiled. "That's because you've built the best customer service team in the industry." "We've built it together," Jasmine corrected. "I may have hired the team, but you created the culture that made it possible." Over the past 6 months, they had divided responsibilities based on their strengths. Robert focused on the technical development and strategic planning, while Jasmine managed the cultural integration and customer relations. But every major decision was made together, and their partnership had proven to be even more effective than either of them had imagined. "How are you feeling about the expansion proposal?" Robert asked. "Excited and nervous. Opening offices in Seoul and Singapore is a big step." "But you think we're ready?" "I think we're ready. The question is whether the board thinks we're ready." The board meeting went better than they had hoped. The consortium executives were impressed with the progress they had made, and they unanimously approved the expansion plan. More importantly, they offered Robert and Jasmine permanent positions as co-presidents of the new regional division. "This is incredible," Jasmine said as they walked back to their office after the meeting. "A year ago, I never could have imagined this." "A year ago, I was a completely different person," Robert said. "I was successful, but I was also lonely and arrogant. I treated people poorly, and I thought business was just about making money. And now I understand that business is about building relationships and creating value for everyone involved. It's about treating people with respect and dignity, regardless of their position or background." They stopped at the elevator, and Robert looked at Jasmine with an expression of deep gratitude and love. "Jasmine, I need to tell you something." "What's that?" "Everything good that has happened to me in the past year is because of you. You saved my business, you taught me how to be a better person, and you've been my partner in building something extraordinary. Robert, you saved my career too. You gave me opportunities one never could have found on my own. But more than that," Robert continued, "you've made me happy in a way I never thought possible. Working with you, living in this amazing city, building a life together, it's been the best year of my life." Jasmine smiled. "Are you going somewhere with this?" Robert reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Actually, I am." Jasmine's eyes widened as Robert dropped to one knee right there in the hallway of their office building. "Jasmine Washington, you walked into my life at my lowest moment and changed everything. You showed me that success isn't about money or power, it's about finding someone who makes you want to be better than you ever thought you could be. Will you marry me?" Jasmine looked down at him, tears streaming down her face. "Are you seriously proposing to me in our office hallway?" "I'm proposing to you in the place where we built our dream together. Is that okay?" "It's perfect," she said, laughing through her tears. "And yes, I'll marry you." Robert slipped the ring onto her finger and stood up to kiss her. As they embraced, several of their employees emerged from the elevator and began applauding. "Did you plan this?" Jasmine asked, looking around at their smiling colleagues. "I may have mentioned to a few people that I was planning to propose today," Robert admitted. "And they all kept the secret?" "They all love you as much as I do." "Well, almost as much." 6 months later, they were married in a beautiful ceremony that blended American and Japanese traditions. Robert's family flew in from Chicago, and Jasmine's family celebrated alongside their new Japanese colleagues and friends. Mr. Yamamoto served as Robert's best man, and Jasmine's sister served as her maid of honor. "I can't believe this is really happening," Jasmine said as they danced at their reception. "Believe it," Robert said, holding her close. "We've built something beautiful together." "The business or the marriage?" "Both. But especially the marriage." As they danced, Robert thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. It had started with a panic attack in a conference room and a delivery girl who happened to speak Japanese. It had continued with a business partnership that had grown into something much deeper. And now it was culminating in a marriage that represented not just their love for each other, but their commitment to building a life together based on mutual respect, shared values, and common dreams. "Robert," Jasmine said as the song ended, "I want to thank you for something." "What's that?" "For seeing my potential when I couldn't see it myself. For giving me a chance to prove what I could do. For treating me as an equal partner from the very beginning." "Jasmine, you don't need to thank me for that. You earned every opportunity you've received." "Maybe. But you were the one who gave me the first chance. And that made all the difference." Robert looked around the reception hall at their friends and colleagues celebrating together. Americans and Japanese, business executives and former delivery drivers, all brought together by the power of mutual respect and shared success. "You know what I'm most proud of?" Robert said. "What?" "We've built a business that treats people the way we wanted to be treated. We've created opportunities for others the way opportunities were created for us. We've proven that success and integrity can go hand in hand. And we've proven that love can grow out of the most unexpected circumstances." "That too." As the evening wound down, Robert and Jasmine stood on the balcony of their reception venue, looking out over Tokyo Bay. The city lights twinkled like stars, and the future stretched out before them full of possibilities. "Are you happy?" Robert asked. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Jasmine replied. "Are you?" "Completely. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, with exactly the right person. Even though it all started with a panic attack and a delivery order? Especially because it started that way. It proves that the best things in life often come from the most unexpected places." Jasmine smiled and leaned against him. "I love you, Mr. Sterling." "I love you too, Mrs. Sterling." As they watched the city lights reflect on the water, Robert thought about how much his life had changed in just 2 years. He had gone from being a successful but lonely businessman to being a happily married co-president of an international company. He had learned that true success wasn't about money or power, it was about building meaningful relationships and creating value for everyone around you. And he had learned that sometimes the most important person in your life walks through your door when you least expect it, carrying a lunch order and speaking perfect Japanese. The millionaire who had panicked without a translator had found something much more valuable than a business deal. He had found a partner, a best friend, and the love of his life. And it all started with a delivery girl who solved his problem in 1 minute and changed his life forever. Dear listeners, thank you for joining Robert and Jasmine on their incredible journey from a panic-filled conference room to a beautiful life together in Tokyo. This story reminds us that sometimes our greatest challenges lead to our most beautiful opportunities, and that the right person can walk into our lives when we need them most. I'd love to hear from you. What did you think about the way their relationship developed? Have you ever had a moment where a stranger's kindness completely changed your life? Do you believe that business success and personal integrity can truly go hand in hand? And what was your favorite moment in Robert and Jasmine's story, the panic attack, the first meeting, the proposal, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories and insights make this community so special.